Welcome to another episode of the Back Catalogue podcast. This is the podcast where we are live from New York City. And by we, I mean me, Apple, my co-host / co-founder Vincent. We dive into the streaming service. We tell you, the listener and the viewer, what is worth it and what is not. Let me tell you one thing. This movie that we're doing today was not on any streaming service that we could find. We ain't going to say how we got it, but we got it.
I got it illegally.
That's a joke that he's saying.
Yeah, that's a joke.
That's just like satire.
That's satire.
That's satire. But we are doing 1979's very own The Warriors.
I watched this at your house.
You watched it at my house, man.
Yeah, while you were watching it, I was snooping through the window. I was watching The Warriors.
Well, that's because I specifically bought, and this was a Christmas purchase. You know when you got that extra cash just lying around on Christmas, you buy something?
Your grandmother gave you $10. You're like, I'm going to buy a Blu-ray.
Dude, I went out and bought a Blu-ray. I bought the imprint collection, The Warriors. And I'm talking about that has the theatrical release and the director's cut. So we're going to be talking about a bit of both here because I've seen both.
That's funny because they're basically the same. They're exactly the same movie. There's really no additional content.
I'm going to tell you some qualms because there's qualms. There's significant qualms. And is there a ringing? Can you hear a ringing? Or they'll be fixed in the edit.
I mean, that probably won't be fixed in the edit. That's probably something that I've got to fix, here, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. And look, we get what we get and we don't get upset, but this is what The Warriors got. It's got a 7.6 out of 10 on the IMDb. It's got 88% on the Rotten Tomatoes. It had a budget of $4 million and it made $22.5 million. And I mean that doesn't include like me buying the imprint collection, because that's one of only several copies.
They haven't updated the statistics for 2023.
They haven't done the 2023 statistics. But in New York City, the members of a gang called the Warriors are framed for the death of a charismatic leader. With other gangs out for revenge against them, they must get back to their home turf.
Back to life. Back to reality. That's what they do.
Who's singing that?
I don't know. There's a song.
Because if they're cancelled, we can't sing it.
Nah, someone's done it.
Because we were meant to be doing Elvis this week until we realised his past ain't as glorious as what is presented on screen.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there because this ain't Elvis. This is The Warriors, 1979's very own. Now, Vincent, I just want to talk about this movie in a couple of ways. One, I want to do sort of the differences between the director's cut and the theatrical cut and why I think one is a lesser product than the other. And by lesser, I mean significantly lesser. You watched the director's cut if I'm
That's all I could legally
watch through my window.
Yeah, legally watch through your window.
And that's fair
because I wasn't going to wait until you watched the director's cut. Because I just watched The Warriors, the regular theatrical release. I wasn't going to sit there because I didn't have a seat. I was standing up on a ladder.
Yeah.
It was difficult.
And because where my screen is, you got to be up on a ladder to get in there because it's got that small window up the top right.
That's right.
That's where it was.
Yeah.
Ain't no windows there.
Yeah.
But we're just trying to keep ourselves safe, In this new era, people figure out where you live because you said you got 3 windows in your house. And they'll know which house it is.
Geez, there'll be people at your house being like, hey, where's this window? I want to watch The Warriors. Can't find it anywhere.
But here's the thing, right? So we're going to talk about those two things. We're also going to talk about which one's the best gang. We've seen a lot of them. I've played the video game. I'm not sure you have. But which one out there is the best gang from the ones that you have seen at the meeting at the start? Next, we're going to talk about will we ever do the Warriors Challenge in which we run 48 kilometers in one sitting? And the final thing I want to talk about is where does this sit? If we talk about this now, looking back on this film, where does it sit in regards to great movies? Where does it sit in regards to maybe being a little bit edgy? Because it could be, man.
Is this your favorite movie ever?
It is up there. It is most definitely up there.
That's wild.
I know we did top 5 Dead or Alive and I don't think it made it on there, but after rewatching this, it could be top 5. It could be top 1, man.
Jeez.
It really could be top 1, bar some things which I'll bring up, and that's what we'll discuss at the end. But Vincent, we'll just get right into it. So I want to talk about the differences between the theatrical cut and the director's cut. So the director's cut is the one that you watched, and essentially it has an opening in which it tells you what this story is based on. It's the Odyssey. It's the
Yeah.
classic Odyssey. It's heads trying to get from one place to another, and there's things in the way.
And they ain't got no Toyota Corolla to get them from A to B.
And I mean, look, if you're in 1979, I don't know which sort of Corollas were like rolling around back then.
No, I'm talking the Odyssey.
Oh, yeah, Toyota.
That's what they were
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like back in the day, they just had trains with graffiti on them.
I'm talking about the Odyssey in Greek, bro. As in what they were saying.
But
Yeah.
I'm talking about the Warriors because it's like the Odyssey, but like for 1979.
Yeah, they just had the subway.
They just had the subway. In the Odyssey, they just had like a boat like on Friday water.
I mean, they just had their sandals.
They just had their sandals, man. It's
all
socks
they
and
had.
sandals, you know?
I don't think they were doing socks.
I don't think they did either. Because that's like too much. Like you're gonna use materials for socks. Like you need them for other things in that world. But then throughout the movie, there are little scenes that are either cut earlier or start with a comic book panel. And that comic book panel will be the characters' faces, them in comic book form, and maybe a quote, you know, like, oh shit, it's the Baseball Furies is one of them.
Or meanwhile.
Or meanwhile,
That's a good one.
you know, like in another space.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that the theatrical cut is far better of a product than what this one is.
Yeah, I really didn't like the comic book thing.
There's no reason for it.
No, there's absolutely no reason. And the drawings are really bad.
Yeah.
The colors are terrible. It just looks awful. I skipped the initial voiceover because I was looking at what the difference between the theatrical and the director's cut, and they said, yeah, there's a 1 minute voiceover, and I said, I'm not into this.
Yeah. So the 1 minute voiceover is essentially saying the story of the Odyssey is that this happened and this is like this story on this fateful night.
On this fateful night.
And it's like, I know that you're a director and you had a reason for making this movie the way that you did. And you want to show people that you made this movie this way. This is what you wanted.
Yeah.
Why are you going to treat the audience like they're dummies?
Because that's what people love to do.
I mean, they are dummies. You look at me, you look at you, we watch this, we're dummies.
Because they want to make themselves think that they're smarter than us.
By just yelling out from the rooftops like,
Yeah.
hey, this is like that story you all know.
But we don't know that. I don't know the story. I didn't know the story.
Dude, you didn't know the story, man.
I didn't know the story.
Until this movie came out.
To this fateful night that I was up on the ladder looking through that third window and you're...
And I mean, it's crazy that you like skipped it, but you're also looking in through my screen.
Yeah.
So like you were
I just
somehow...
closed my eyes.
Yeah, oh, that's true. That's how you skip things when you like don't have control.
Yeah.
You know? I think that the other issue with this is when they do the comic book panels in between the movie, it stops you in motion. Like there's the scene, one of my favorite scenes in which they're this movie is about the Warriors being out on the run, and they get to a point in which they come out of a subway and they're like, hey man, I'm glad we don't have to run away from anything else. And then one of the gangs called the Baseball Furies has just rocked up, ready
Yeah.
to piece them up. And the Baseball Furies are dudes dressed in baseball uniforms with face paint on and baseball bats.
Yeah.
And then they start chasing them. The theatrical version is that just all happens organically. They come out, they start looking around, they see heads around, and they're just like, what are we going to do? We're going to run.
Yeah.
But in this one, it tells you, oh, it's the Baseball Furies, which is not a line in the theatrical cut. Because no one knows, like, that, you know.
Oh, you don't know who they are. They're just people with baseball bats.
Well, at that time, you don't know. As you go on, you see like Furies on their back, but you don't necessarily know that it's the Baseball Furies.
They could be the softball Furies.
They could be They could be doing softball. They could
They
be
could be the
Under
baseball
Armour.
bat Furies.
They could be the baseball bat Furies. They could just be the Furies.
They could just be the Furies. They
You
could
know?
be the furries, and they just like dyslexic.
They're the fairies are like, bro, we didn't have enough like money to do like the costume, but we do play baseball on a sad day.
They said
So,
we
like,
came straight from baseball practice. You know, we left the tails in my mum's car.
Yeah, dude. And like, I've seen some furry videos out there on Instagram, and it's a trend that seems to be increasing.
Yeah, that's because people watch the Warriors and they...
I mean, you watch 1979's very own, you might become a furry, whether that be baseball or not, you know? But that is the one, and I look to that one specifically because that is, in my opinion, that is such an iconic scene. You know, I remember watching this when I was far too young to be watching this movie, and I saw that scene. I was just like, it's about to get buck wild.
Yeah.
And then I watched that in the year, 2023 of our Lord. Like, I'm talking the year of our Lord, 2023, and I was like, this is about to get buck wild. You know, when I saw it in the theatrical cut, when I saw it in the director's cut, I was just like, this is a bit jarring. This is a bit jarring. But that's really all I have to say about the difference between the directors and the theatrical, because there's not much else.
Yeah.
There's not much else that's different.
It's really just a transition between scenes.
Which I don't understand why they need to do that.
No, it was weird. If it looked good, I'd have less of a problem with it, but it just looked awful. It was terrible.
And if this...
You know what it looked like? It looked like, early 2000s word art.
And look, man.
Clip art, that's the one.
I was going to say, I saw a photo of... who's the man that's like Lenny from The Simpsons? And it's him like sitting there like this.
Yeah.
And he's just like looking at a computer, and on the computer it has like all the different word art fonts, because that was a choice back in the day.
That was a choice. Because you got the fonts and then you got to do the colors. And then there's gradients and...
Yeah, dude.
Jeez.
Like, it's not something that comes easy, man.
Nah.
But once you found your color and your gradient and your thing, you could be like, all right, I sort of know what I'm going to do for this project, but this project I'll do something different.
Yeah.
You know, because
you
if you
might keep the colors and gradient, but you change the font.
Dude, that's wild to people. One of the things that I would like to talk about actually before we get into some of the other stuff, essentially this is going to be the hits and the misses. I want to talk about this movie just from start to finish because I enjoy it. But the opening scenes of this movie, I think, are some of the best in movie history. And there's certain lines in here that are very iconic. Warriors come out to play, that comes later in the movie. But also, if you can count, like, can you dig it? All those lines and that opening speech by it's not the opening to the movie necessarily, but by Cyrus, the one and only, right?
Yeah, jeez.
Dude, when they are leading into, it's them essentially going on the train to, I think they're in Brooklyn at that point. I think that's where the meeting is.
In the Bronx.
In the Bronx.
They go to the meeting in the Bronx.
They go to the meeting in the Bronx. And before they're talking about like, what's this meeting going to be about? Who's Cyrus? What's going to be happening? And it's just those interchange cuts between like the credits and the heads just standing there saying some of the cheesiest lines ever.
Yeah, terrible.
But they're fantastic, man. Like when you go to, because I know all the names, like when you go to Cochise, right? And he's like, magic.
Who? Coach Cheese?
I'm pretty sure his name is Cochise. Maybe it's Cochise. Cochise.
Okay.
Say that as you will, but like, I don't want to be treading on anyone's toes, but I think that's Cochise.
There's Chucky and then there's Coke.
Put them together, man. You got the same last name. Because when I see those scenes, it does make me laugh now. Because these dudes as well, one of the funny things about them is that these dudes, like, they don't look like the hardest of dudes.
No, that was the funniest part, I think. They've got, these are all the gangs of New York.
Yeah.
And they all have this hilarious gimmick. There's a gang of mimes.
Yeah, that's the high hats.
High hats. There's just dudes in just white t-shirts and vests.
Yeah, there's 100% just heads in like just random clothes.
And they look like they've just come from the theater. Most of them, I would have thought this was like the gangs of Broadway.
So I agree with that. But also I read somewhere that, and this is what I'm looking at now, that some of the gang members in those initial scenes are actual just heads in gangs, in street gangs that they brought, and they're like, hey, do you want to be in this movie?
Yeah. But were they representing their actual gang?
No.
Or they said, hey, we know you do actual gang things, but dress up as a mime real quick.
Yeah. I think they did that. Because like, if you're rolling around town looking like a mime, I'll piece you up. Especially the dude that you saw. You see some of those dudes dressed as mimes?
I mean, they all look like clowns to me.
I mean, exactly right. I don't mess around with clowns. That is one of the funniest bits. But I think the Warriors specifically, because they are all actors, are just the least hard-looking individuals that you'll see. They're great, though. I love them all.
I mean, they all look like teenagers.
They do look very young, which, you'd assume if you're doing street gang things, you're not doing that at 45. Like, you're a bit too old for the street game.
Bro, that's where they're the heads at the top.
Do you reckon that's like the, if you can count sort of people?
Yeah, they're asking if you can count because they're teaching the kids.
I mean, if we're talking about which people look cool, I'm going to tell you just real quick. One, I mean, Cyrus looks like a cool dude. Cyrus, he's up on there on that like, makeshift cubby house, and he's like yelling at the people. I mean, what a scene with that robe on, the Riffs, leader of the Riffs, hardest gang in the town. Absolutely amazing. You look at his right hand man, the man with the the aviators on.
That was the only guy that actually looked cool in this movie.
He looks cool, dude.
That dude, because he's rocking up and he's got a full black suit and he's got sandals on.
That's exactly right. He's got the open. Yeah.
Nah, that's top notch, bro. How am I getting phone calls?
Is this phone calls you need to take?
Too bad.
Well, I think because Vincent sent me like a message the other day. I was out on town and he sends me a message like, well, you know, I might have actually been at home and he was just staring from the background and we're like watching the same scene at the same time. But he said something along the lines of, what's the thing? It was hilarious.
I don't know.
It was hilarious. I'm going to read it right now for you.
I don't think it was that funny.
I think it was funny.
I don't think so.
I think it was funny. I think it was about, you know.
We'll let the people decide. Comment if this was funny, all right? No one that gets, what are we, 15 minutes? Yeah, no one watches this. So if you comment, I mean, respect to you, but also.
But like, you ain't going to be here. It's just going to be me and you.
That's right.
If you enter a space wearing a black suit with sandals, that's authority right there.
Well, I mean, that's authority.
And that's pretty funny, dude, because especially I saw that on a Sunday and I'm like, you know, this is the Lord's Day especially. And I've seen that. And that's
and he had the aviators on in the middle of the night.
The best part about it is when he's got the aviators on and he stands in front of the whole group of riffs and he's like, who are the warriors? And he just starts throwing out lines like that. One line.
The way people talk in this movie is kind of funny.
Part of it is because everyone's line is a one-liner because there's like 18 people at any time on a screen. You can't just have one dude doing monologues. It's all one-liners, this movie, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, it's what I think I liked, because I didn't like this movie at all. What I liked about this movie was it had style. It had a very specific style, and I think it did well with that style.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was an exceedingly below average movie.
Dude, it is too good, man.
Because you have someone. I mean, I don't know if it's meant to be a bit of a satire on gangs. I'm assuming it's not.
No, I don't think it is.
But you got them walking through the subway, and there's a dude menacingly on roller skates, and he's there with his hands in his overalls, being like skating around.
I mean,
and the best part was he was going down a long ramp in the subway station, and Mans is like zigzagging on the way across. I'm thinking it'd be funnier if you just went straight through, no expression, just right past the dude.
Because at that point, there's a scene where that man is essentially stalking the warriors that are in this space.
Yeah.
And initially, it starts off being just two of them, and then gradually the whole team that is left rocks up. But that's meant to be like a menacing scene. This dude's taking it slow. So if he was to just go with reckless abandonment, just go down as fast as he could,
just smack him over the head or something, just clothesline him on the roller skates.
Look, I think there is a lot to laugh at looking at it now. But here's where I think this movie does something good. If you were to make this movie now, who are the warriors? You probably got Dave Bautista in there. You probably got The Rock, right? I think that this movie benefits from having dudes that do not look like they're meant to be in there. Because then people that watch it like me and you, we're like, dude, we could be the Warriors.
But why would you want to be the Warriors?
I mean, you wouldn't. But
he's just legging it from the Bronx to Coney Island.
But part of you wants to be like, let me run from Bronx to Coney Island.
These are all street gangs, man. And they're all just like running on foot places to places.
Which is amazing. Which is part of the, again, when we look at this movie, we look at iconic moments. We look at iconic songs as well. Because the music in this and the disc jockey as well.
I would have to say the best part of this movie is the disc jockey and how they've just got a close up of her mouth on the microphone, talking to the microphone, and what she says, like, what's the way she refers to boppers? Yeah. Geez, that was the best part of the movie by far,
and it is great.
100% is great. That is one part that I go, and the parts with the riffs.
The riffs are great.
I think they're pretty cool. Like I said, that's.
You literally, what you're saying to me is that there's a lot of good parts in this movie.
There's two good parts. Because the riffs are hardly in it.
What about the opening? What about the opening scene with Cyrus? That's one of the most iconic scenes in movie history.
Can you dig it, suckers? Bro,
and it was like, yeah, I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker.
Yeah.
Dude, I love
he's just
that.
talking about like, hey, we could take over all this land. It's all ours.
But he says ours like that.
Yeah.
And you hear that voice, that's iconic. But also their plan is just like cops got guns, man. They shoot you in the head.
That's what I mean.
Got sticks and stuff.
They're in the US of A in 1979. Right? Yeah. There's no cameras out there.
There ain't no cameras, that's true.
There's no cameras. What, police just got batons?
Oh no, they ain't got no batons.
No, they're chasing heads in the subway with batons.
Yeah.
One of the best parts was the dude just throws a baseball bat at the cop.
Yeah.
He falls over and he's like clutching his shin.
I mean, look, dude, if you walk into the MMA world, right, you have to season those shins, right? You have to season them up, you have to pepper them up, you have to hit them up. Because if you get smacked in the shins like that, they'll take you down. So I can understand why Mans was rolling around the ground. Here's the thing about this movie, though. I think that when you and this is part of the issue that you and I had with Spider-Man 2, in the fact that I really loved it and you didn't. It is because that I guess that level of cheesiness, that level of this doesn't really make sense, or this doesn't, like, these people don't work in this universe, is why I enjoy it more so than someone who doesn't obviously look at it that way, but also more so than some of the other movies that I have watched on my top 5 Dead or Alive. Because this is a fun movie. It's really not that serious.
Oh, absolutely is not. Because some dude will get smacked in the chest and he'll just go down on the ground clutching his stomach and that's it. You know, he's out.
Or for example, there's people driving at them in a big old bus.
Yeah.
And they're just running down the middle of the road. And the bus hasn't caught up to them.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people on that bus.
I mean, that bus was weighed down with the Turnbull AC. But they look hard, though.
Those people, yeah. That looked like a gang.
That looked like a gang. But, you know, you have scenes with the orphans. Amazing scene. Where it's just some dudes who rock up thinking that they're that hard. And
that was a half decent scene. I don't know why that lady was just with them. That was...
Look, I don't know if they needed a romantic... what's the word I'm looking for? Someone to come in and you know, develop a sense of romance and you know, chauvinistic, like, male approaches to romance as well. I don't think that they necessarily needed that, but also you can play as her at the game, and I've thrown people off a roof with her, so that was pretty fun.
That was all worth it. Yeah, I mean that part was...
I think that that's not needed necessarily, but you know, when we're looking at movies and we're looking at formulas, people feel like they have to fall into a formula. And for this specific movie, it is based on a book which I haven't read, but I would like to read.
It's based on the Odyssey.
It's based on the Odyssey, but it's also based on a 1965 book by the same name, which is The Warriors, of course.
Titular.
Another just element that I will add before we get into just a bit more of females, how they're represented in this movie. In saying that, I love the Lizzie scene, but we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Is the rogues, so the guys who actually killed Cyrus, who blamed the Warriors.
That dude was... I wanted more of that dude.
He's good, right?
He was good.
Yeah.
But how Warriors come out and play, that was... I feel like I've heard that before, probably from you. It wasn't as effective in that scene because man's got like bottles on his fingers.
Yeah, but
and it's in broad daylight.
It is in broad daylight, that's true. But I think that the fact that you hear the bottles before you hear anything.
Yeah, that
if you're rocking up as the Warriors to Coney Island, you think you're safe. You think you're home.
Yeah, but that just makes it more hilarious that you hear the bottles and you go, "Oh, this is wild," and then man's just rubbing his fingers together with bottles on his fingers.
It is pretty hilarious, given his face as well.
Dude's got chin for days.
He's got chin for days, dude. That's the dude that I'm pretty sure Arnold Schwarzenegger throws him off of a cliff in one movie.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He looks like the kind of dude that would get thrown off a cliff.
By Arnie.
But man's is... I love the... You know, you just know... I'm going to start speaking and it's going to make sense. The part where, you know, you're watching the movie and you go, oh, you know, you want to know... Well, for me, why did they kill Cyrus and then blame it on someone else? You know, why did they do that? What's the motive? I thought there'd be some sort of, you know... Oh, there's this big plot to uncover the gangs of New York and someone else can take power instead of the Riffs. But man's just like, because I wanted to.
He just did it for the fun.
He just did it for the... Which, I mean...
I mean, that's almost the better. That's almost the better.
No, I think it works better in this scenario because if you had this underlying plot of why things happen, I feel like it would make the rest of the movie stand out as being even worse.
Yeah, because they try to make it too serious for what movie it actually was.
Because at the end of the day, they're just getting from A to B.
I do love that final scene though, the final couple of scenes when they're sort of rolling into Coney Island. They're sitting there, they're all beat up on the train. They're looking at the people who have just been at prom or whatever.
Yeah.
And they sort of just realize like, this is where we are. And I'm sure this is an area that's explored more in the book, but it's like, we're just scum of the earth.
I can imagine the book being pretty good.
Well, because there's elements of this that are very interesting. So if you would have had the space to expand, I just think it's overall they went for style. Oh yeah,
and maybe at the time that would have been this is 100% style. This is good, but I don't think it's aged particularly well. Having watched it for the first time now in 2023, the year of our Lord,
and I could see potentially if I was to take away the nostalgia of it, that maybe I wouldn't like it, but part of me thinks I would just because I'm a big fan of, of cheesiness, of machoisms. I don't know if that's a word, but that could be a word.
Yeah.
Just dudes acting hard, Like that makes me laugh. That makes me enjoy the space.
I also love how one dude 100% got hit by a train and no one spoke about him or talked about him for the rest of the movie.
They just say we lost Fox.
Yeah, we lost Fox.
Yeah, dude, Fox dead, man.
Yeah.
Fox.
Same with the dude at the start, the previous warlord.
Yeah, Cleon, man. I mean, that's a cool looking dude as well.
Yeah.
That's a cool looking dude. Fox, not so cool.
Fox, not so cool. Nah, he kind of look like me a bit.
You look a bit cooler than Fox, but like one of the qualms that I have about it is that there's a relationship between the warriors and the lady that they pick up from the orphans, and like is specifically between Swan, who's becomes the new war chief, and her, and now some of that stuff is just like I don't know what this man's is going for, or what they were going for in this movie, but I feel a bit uncomfortable with their relationship throughout it. It's fine that she's there, but then there's some areas it's like, why are they trying to just force this relationship into like 5 minutes and then just make it look really, really creepy?
Yeah.
Not to bring this down, but man says maybe we should run a train on you. They say those lines. in this movie.
That's right.
Like that is a wild line, and one that I only understood upon rewatching it.
That's.
So I'm watching this like, who knew I might have been out of school telling people like, let's run a train, not knowing what that means. I'm thinking Thomas is here.
Jesus.
Right,
Thomas is here, and like so of his mates. Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, there was a lot of that also with the other dude that was just like, hey, there's a girl on this bench.
Ajax, man.
Which that is it's part of it is terrible, but also just the whole thing in general is hilarious.
Yeah.
Because I don't know because she's just sitting on the bench smoking or whatever.
And that's at like 4 a.m.
Yeah. And she came from back from the meeting of the gangs. She found that bench. She was like, I'm home.
And that looked like, I'm assuming that's Central Park as well.
I mean, it's a park.
That's a big space.
Yeah. 1979. That's not safe for anyone. But yeah, it was just. I think the weirdest part of that was the dude's like, "Hey, catch up with me later, fellas. I'm gonna run the moves here."
Yeah.
And he sits down, and it seems like straight away they're now, flirting with each other or whatever. And then I don't know if I thought she turned around and she was like, I'm a police officer. You're under arrest, because she handcuffs man to the bench.
She does, yeah.
So I don't know if she was there purposefully trying to...
Oh, she was 100% planted there to be catching fools like that. I mean, it's like back in the day, when they were trying to catch the son of Sam. There was that dude that was killing people who had been having intercourse in their cars. So they just set up like dummies, like sitting in cars together, and hopefully like he would just run into the car and be like, "This is dummy," and then the cops run up on him.
Sam is my dad.
He's the son of him,
He's the son of him. Yeah. No, it was just funny because I wasn't really sure.
Oh, We've got low power modes over here. That's
Yeah,
right.
that's right. It was just funny because I just didn't know what to make of it.
Yeah, and part of the funny part, one of the funny parts about it is that, and I think maybe this was intentional, showing just even though that guy, he acts tough, he acts hard, he's really still a child. Like, he's, and I guess this might have been what this part of this movie about is that these are just young dudes just on the wrong side of the world, right? Because he goes up to her and he's like, "You okay there, miss? You feeling okay, miss?" Like he just starts talking the weakest game I've ever heard. And then he gets arrested. He does get his comeuppance, and I think that's a good thing. And I love the scene with the Lizzies specifically.
That was hilarious.
So they roll up to the station in which it's the last station before Coney.
Yeah.
And that's the spot where they say, we're going to meet up here. This is our
Union
spot.
Station.
Union Station. Then we'll go to Coney together. We roll into Coney together. Anyway, 3 of the members, Rembrandt, Cochise, and Vermin, this man's name is, they roll out of the subway and they see these group of girls standing at the steps of the subway, and they think like, I mean, this is the opportunity. Like we got nothing but time here. Which is the line
That's right.
they say.
That's what
So they roll into these girls' apartment, not knowing that they are also a gang.
Yeah.
Called the Lizzies. They pull out guns. They pull out knives.
Man, the amount of, I haven't seen this amount of dodging bullets since like that movie with,
Like Canoe Receives.
not Canoe Receives, with Morgan Freeman and Angelina Jolie and Professor X, and they're
What's
like,
that like?
Wanted, I
Wanted,
think.
yeah.
Wanted, and they're throwing the gun and it's bending the bullets.
Yeah.
And they're like dodging things, and that's what they were doing because they're shooting at them point blank and they're missing.
They're missing, dude. One of the funniest scenes, part of it is funny because it's just chaos in there.
Yeah.
There's people with guns, people with knives, people, and they have to literally run through a door.
Jeez.
And I mean, that, as well as the scene in the bathroom with the dudes on roller skates.
Yeah. It was only
Absolute-
one dude on roller skates.
Well, yeah, the one dude on roller skates.
So I don't
but
know what their
that
gang,
crew,
MO is.
I think they might be the Jones Street Boys, but I can't remember. I think the Jones Street Boys could be someone else, but that's neither here nor there. The scene, just chaos in this movie in those areas are some of the best. Quickly before we go, Vincent, I want to just say the game is a 10 out of 10.
The game is 10 out of 10.
It's an absolute 10 out of 10. I recently replayed it, finished it, and I've been replaying specific missions, and it has been nothing but fun. PlayStation 2 era game, literally one of the best Rockstar games that they brought out. And you can tune in to the After Dark because one time I talked about how PS2 era games are the best games ever. But also it wasn't that good of a podcast because it was solo dolo, What do you rate this, Vincent?
I don't know, maybe like a 4.
Yeah, this is a 9.5 out of 10.
I think, look, upon talking about it and reflecting a bit, it definitely has some redeeming qualities that are pretty cool. And I do remember thinking this has got a lot of style and it's cool. I just think it was a bit too corny or cringy for me. I just felt,
I can 100% agree. I'm going to be showing this to my cousins who are, of this new generation.
Yeah.
Right. And I can't wait to see what their reaction is because this movie, I don't know how it's going to sit well with like the TikTokers of the world.
I mean, they might go out and start a gang.
I mean, one time I did go to a place and I went to, I was probably about 13, 14 years old, went to the park and some man's had Warriors graffiti on the thing. And it was just in red texter, like some sort of red permanent texter saying Warriors. And I was like, this is a goofy ass dude. Like if he rolled up and I saw him doing it, I could probably piece him and his whole gang up because they're just doing that in permanent marker. And I was 13.
Jeez. Yeah, it was a strange movie. It was a movie where I was kind of going, let's speed this up a little bit.
Well, if you want to speed this up, I'm going to tell you one thing. That was the Warriors, and this has been the back catalogue.
Warriors. Talk soon.